The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the luxurious Palm Cove resort. The restaurant, with its floor-to-ceiling windows and crystal chandeliers, buzzed with the soft hum of clinking silverware and murmured conversations. Tasha Johnson moved swiftly between tables, her polished demeanor masking the exhaustion in her bones. She had been on her feet for 10 hours, catering to the whims of wealthy guests who often treated her as invisible. But Tasha prided herself on her professionalism. She had dreams, big ones, and this job was a stepping stone to something greater. Evelyn Hartwell sat at a corner table, her designer handbag perched like a crown on the empty chair beside her. She was the kind of woman who commanded attention without saying a word. Her sharp features, perfectly coiffed hair, and icy blue eyes exuded an air of entitlement. She had arrived at the resort earlier that day, her presence immediately stirring whispers among the staff. Trouble, one of the waiters had muttered under his breath. Tasha approached Evelyn's table with a practiced smile, balancing a tray of appetizers. "Here's your Caesar salad, ma'am," she said, placing the dish carefully in front of Evelyn. "And your sparkling water with lemon, as requested." Evelyn glanced at the salad, her lips curling into a frown. "This isn't what I ordered," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. Tasha's smile faltered for a moment, but she quickly recovered. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. Let me double-check your order." She pulled out her notepad, scanning the details. "It says, here, you requested the Caesar salad. Was there something else you'd prefer?" Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "Are you implying I don't know what I ordered? I asked for the Cobb salad, no tomatoes. How hard is it to get that right?" The sharpness of Evelyn's tone drew the attention of nearby diners. Tasha felt her cheeks flush but kept her composure. "My apologies, ma'am. I'll have the kitchen prepare the correct dish right away." Evelyn leaned back in her chair, her gaze sweeping over Tasha with a look of contempt. "Honestly, it's not that difficult. Do they not train you people properly here?" The words stung, but Tasha forced herself to remain calm. "I'll make sure your order is corrected immediately. Thank you for your patience." As Tasha turned to leave, Evelyn's voice cut through the air like a whip. "And don't forget to bring me a new glass of water. This one has too much ice." Tasha nodded, her hands trembling slightly as she picked up the offending glass. She hurried to the kitchen, her mind racing. She had dealt with difficult customers before, but there was something about Evelyn that felt different, more venomous, more personal. When Tasha returned with the Cobb salad and a fresh glass of water, she placed them on the table with a quiet, "Here you go, ma'am. I hope everything is to your liking now." Evelyn didn't even glance up. "About time," she muttered, picking up her fork. Tasha took a deep breath and turned to leave, but before she could take a step, Evelyn's voice stopped her again. "Wait, this dressing is wrong. Did you even listen to what I said?" Tasha's patience was wearing thin, but she forced herself to respond politely. "I'm sorry, ma'am. What seems to be the issue?" Evelyn's eyes flashed with anger. "The issue is your incompetence. I specifically asked for the dressing on the side. Are you deaf or just stupid?" The insult hung in the air like a thunderclap. Tasha felt her fists clench at her sides, but before she could respond, Evelyn stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. In a flash of movement, Evelyn slapped Tasha across the face. The sound echoed through the restaurant, silencing every conversation. Tasha staggered back, her hand flying to her stinging cheek. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Then, without thinking, Tasha swung her arm and slapped Evelyn back. Gasps filled the room as Evelyn stumbled, her perfectly styled hair falling out of place. Her eyes widened in shock, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Tasha stood frozen, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew her life was about to change forever. The spark had been lit. The restaurant was a tableau of stunned silence. Every eye was fixed on Tasha and Evelyn, the tension so thick it felt like the air itself had turned to glass. Tasha's hand still tingled from the impact, her chest heaving as adrenaline coursed through her veins. Evelyn, clutching her cheek, stared at Tasha with a mixture of disbelief and fury. Her perfectly curated composure had shattered, revealing a raw, unbridled rage beneath. "How dare you?" Evelyn hissed, her voice trembling with indignation. "Do you have any idea who I am? You'll regret this for the rest of your miserable life." Tasha's mind raced. She could feel the weight of the room's judgment pressing down on her, some guests whispering in shock, others filming the scene on their phones. Her heart pounded as she realized the gravity of what she had done. She had struck a guest. In the world of luxury hospitality, that was an unforgivable sin. But as she looked at Evelyn, her fear began to harden into resolve. She was tired of being treated as less than human, tired of swallowing her pride, tired of being invisible. "I don't care who you are," Tasha said, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. "You don't get to put your hands on me. No one does." Evelyn's eyes widened, her face flushing crimson. "You insolent little—" Before she could finish, the restaurant manager, Daniel Harris, rushed to the scene, his face pale with panic. "Ladies, please," he interjected, stepping between them. "Let's calm down. This is not the place for such behavior." "Calm down." Evelyn spat, rounding on Daniel. This creature assaulted me. I demand she be fired immediately and arrested. Do you hear me? Arrested." Daniel glanced at Tasha, his expression a mix of sympathy and apprehension. He had always liked Tasha. She was one of his hardest-working employees, but he also knew the resort's reputation was on the line. "Tasha," he said, quietly, "why don't you step into the back while we sort this out?" Tasha hesitated, her gaze flickering to the guests still watching the scene unfold. She knew what stepping into the back meant. It was the first step toward being silenced, toward being made the villain in a story she hadn't started. But before she could respond, a voice cut through the tension. "Wait." All eyes turned to a middle-aged man at a nearby table. He stood, his expression calm but firm. "I saw what happened," he said. "That woman," he pointed at Evelyn, "hit her first. The waitress was just defending herself." Evelyn's jaw dropped. "How dare you? I am the victim here." "No," the man replied, his voice rising. "You're the one who started this. You've been berating her since she walked over here. Everyone saw it." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. Other guests began nodding, their initial shock giving way to a sense of collective outrage. Evelyn, realizing the tide was turning against her, clenched her fists. "This is outrageous," she shouted, grabbing her handbag. "I won't stand for this. You'll be hearing from my lawyer." With that, she stormed out of the restaurant, her heels clicking sharply against the polished floor. The room erupted into chatter, the din of voices filling the void left by her departure. Daniel turned to Tasha, his face etched with concern. "Tasha, I need you to come with me to the office. We need to discuss what just happened." Tasha nodded, her legs feeling like lead as she followed him. She knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. Evelyn Hartwell wasn't the kind of woman to let something like this go. But as Tasha walked past the guests, some of whom offered her small, encouraging smiles, she felt a flicker of hope. For the first time in a long time, she hadn't stayed silent. And that, she realized, was something no one could take away from her. The breaking point had come and gone. Now, the real battle was about to begin. The resort's office was a stark contrast to the opulence of the restaurant. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a harsh glow on the beige walls and utilitarian furniture. Tasha sat in a stiff chair across from Daniel, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. The adrenaline that had carried her through the confrontation with Evelyn was fading, leaving behind a hollow ache in her chest. Daniel sighed, running a hand through his thinning hair. "Tasha, I don't even know where to start. What happened out there? It's a nightmare for the resort. Do you understand that?" Tasha nodded, her throat tight. "I do, and I'm sorry for the trouble. But she hit me first, Daniel. I couldn't just stand there and take it." Daniel leaned forward, his expression softening. "I believe you, and honestly, I don't blame you for defending yourself. But Evelyn Hartwell is a powerful woman. She's already threatening to sue the resort and drag your name through the mud. This could get ugly. Tasha's stomach churned. She had worked too hard, sacrificed too much, to let someone like Evelyn destroy everything she had built. "What happens now?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Before Daniel could respond, his phone buzzed on the desk. He glanced at the screen and grimaced. "It's corporate. They've already seen the video." "The video?" Tasha's heart sank. "Someone filmed the whole thing," Daniel explained. "It's all over social media. The resort's PR team is in damage control mode, but it's spreading fast." Tasha buried her face in her hands. This was worse than she had imagined. Her life was about to become a public spectacle, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Meanwhile, Evelyn was already making good on her threats. By the time Tasha left the office, a statement from Evelyn's lawyer had been released to the press. It painted Tasha as an aggressive, unhinged employee who had attacked an innocent guest without provocation. The narrative was clear. Evelyn was the victim, and Tasha was the villain. But as the hours passed, the story began to shift. The video of the altercation went viral, sparking a firestorm of debate online. While some condemned Tasha for hitting a guest, others praised her for standing up to Evelyn's abuse. Hashtags like #JusticeForTasha and #StandWithWorkers began trending, with people sharing their own stories of workplace mistreatment. Tasha, overwhelmed and unsure of what to do, turned to her family for support. Her younger sister, Maya, was the first to arrive at her apartment, pulling her into a tight hug. "I saw the video," Maya said, her voice fierce. "You did the right thing, Tasha. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise." Her mother, a retired nurse, was less optimistic. "This woman sounds dangerous, Tasha. She's not going to let this go. You need to protect yourself." Tasha knew her mother was right. Evelyn had the money, the connections, and the vindictiveness to ruin her life. But as she scrolled through the messages of support flooding her social media accounts, she felt a glimmer of hope. She wasn't alone in this fight. The next morning, Tasha received a call from a local activist named Marcus Green. "I saw what happened," he said, "and I want to help. You've got a case here. Tasha, Evelyn Hartwell has a history of treating service workers like dirt. If we can prove that, we can turn the tide in your favor." Tasha hesitated. Taking on Evelyn felt like standing in front of a speeding train. But Marcus's confidence was contagious. "What do I need to do?" she asked. "Meet me tomorrow," Marcus said. "We'll start building your defense." As Tasha hung up the phone, she felt a strange sense of determination. The fallout from the incident had been devastating, but it had also awakened something in her, refusal to be silenced, a refusal to be broken. The battle lines had been drawn, and Tasha was ready to fight. The small, sunlit office of Marcus Green's nonprofit organization was a stark contrast to the cold, corporate environment Tasha had grown accustomed to. Marcus, a seasoned activist with a reputation for taking on powerful adversaries, sat across from her, his sharp eyes scanning a folder of documents. Tasha fidgeted nervously, unsure of what to expect. "You've got a strong case," Marcus said finally, leaning back in his chair. "Evelyn Hartwell has a pattern of behavior. We've already found 3 former service workers willing to testify about her abuse. And the video? It's gold. It shows her hitting you first. No jury will ignore that." Tasha felt a flicker of hope, but quickly tamped it down. "Evelyn's lawyer is already spinning the story. They're saying I provoked her, that I'm unstable. What if no one believes me?" Marcus smiled, a determined glint in his eye. "That's why we're going on the offensive. We're not just defending you, we're exposing her. Evelyn's used to getting her way because people are too scared to stand up to her. But not this time." Over the next few days, Marcus and his team worked tirelessly to build Tasha's case. They dug into Evelyn's past, uncovering a trail of complaints from hotel staff, restaurant workers, and even former employees of her own company. Each story was more damning than the last, painting a picture of a woman who thrived on belittling others. Meanwhile, the public outcry continued to grow. The #StandWithTasha had gone viral, with thousands sharing messages of support and their own experiences of workplace abuse. A crowdfunding campaign to cover Tasha's legal fees surpassed its goal within hours, a testament to the groundswell of solidarity. Evelyn, however, wasn't backing down. Her legal team launched a smear campaign, leaking false stories about Tasha's history of aggression and threatening to sue anyone who defamed her. But the more Evelyn fought, the more the public turned against her. The turning point came when a former maid from another resort came forward with a recording of Evelyn verbally abusing her. The audio went viral, and suddenly Evelyn's carefully curated image began to crumble. Tasha, emboldened by the support, decided to speak out. In a televised interview, she shared her story with quiet dignity. "I'm not just fighting for myself," she said. "I'm fighting for everyone who's ever been treated like they don't matter. No one should have to endure what I did." The fight was far from over, but for the first time, Tasha felt like she had a chance. Evelyn Hartwell had underestimated her, and that, Tasha realized, was her biggest mistake. The tide was turning. Justice was within reach. The courtroom was packed on the day of the hearing. Reporters lined the walls, their cameras poised to capture every moment of the high-profile case. Tasha sat at the plaintiff's table, her hands clasped tightly to steady their trembling. Marcus sat beside her, his presence a reassuring anchor. Across the room, Evelyn Hartwell glared at her with undisguised contempt, her lawyer whispering furiously in her ear. The judge entered, and the room fell silent. Tasha's heart pounded as the proceedings began. Evelyn's legal team went first, painting Tasha as an aggressive, unstable employee who had attacked an innocent guest. They presented edited clips of the viral video, omitting the moment Evelyn struck Tasha first. But when Marcus stood to present Tasha's case, the atmosphere shifted. He played the full, unedited video, forcing the courtroom to witness Evelyn's unprovoked assault. He then called witness after witness, former service workers who had endured Evelyn's abuse, each testimony more damning than the last. A maid from a luxury hotel recounted how Evelyn had thrown a glass of wine at her for being too slow. A waiter described being publicly humiliated for a minor mistake. The final blow came when Marcus played the audio recording of Evelyn berating a maid, her voice dripping with venom. "You're nothing," Evelyn sneered in the recording. "You're lucky I don't have you fired." The courtroom erupted in murmurs, and even the judge looked visibly shaken. Evelyn's lawyer objected repeatedly, but the damage was done. When Tasha took the stand, she spoke with quiet strength. "I didn't want this fight," she said, her voice steady. "But I couldn't stay silent anymore. No one should have to endure what I did, what so many others have endured. This isn't just about me. It's about holding people accountable, no matter how powerful they are." The judge's ruling was swift and unequivocal. Evelyn was found liable for assault and ordered to pay substantial damages to Tasha. But the victory extended beyond the courtroom. The resort, facing intense public pressure, announced sweeping changes to protect its employees, including mandatory training on workplace harassment and a zero-tolerance policy for abusive behavior. Evelyn's reputation never recovered. The scandal cost her business deals, social standing, and the veneer of invincibility she had always relied on. For Tasha, the victory was bittersweet. The ordeal had taken a toll, but it had also awakened a fire within her. In the months that followed, Tasha became an advocate for workers' rights, partnering with Marcus's organization to push for legislative changes. Her story inspired countless others to speak out, sparking a national conversation about dignity and respect in the workplace. One evening, as Tasha stood on a stage addressing a crowd of supporters, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. "This isn't the end," she said, her voice ringing with conviction. "It's the beginning. Together, we can create a world where no one has to suffer in silence." The crowd erupted in applause, and Tasha smiled, her heart full. She had started this journey as a waitress fighting for her dignity. Now, she was a symbol of hope, proof that even the smallest voices could spark monumental change. The dawn of a new era had arrived, and Tasha Johnson was ready to lead the way.